Good morning, one and all. Today's video, well, I don't know. You know, because you've read the title. I don't know, because it's still last night. Geo is going to surprise me with a subject, which I don't know. I had my head literally in the sand all day, albeit sand and cement. Geo, what on earth have you brought me here to talk about?
Right, just before we did last night's video about one win for European football, the Slavia Prague manager dropped some very interesting confirmation of transfer news. And this is a quote from the Slavia Prague manager. He says, "There's interest in Abdallah Sima. There's a set price at which he could leave. We're focused on managing the rest of the season with us. We talked about it with the boys from West Ham, where they have it very high on the list of possible reinforcements." So basically, the Slavia Prague manager has confirmed there's some form of talks going on between Slavia Prague and West Ham for Sima, who have been linked with for quite a while now. So there you go.
Well, okay. I mean, that's quite a brazen way to conduct your transfer business, isn't it? Really.
Remember, Vladimir Sufal, the Slavia Prague chairman, came out after a game and said that's his last game. He's off to West Ham tomorrow. Remember.
They don't keep their powder dry, do they? They're not very good at the old cloak and dagger PR over there. I like the truth. I like the honesty of it. Just tell it as it is, really. I don't mind this at all, by the way. And I've been unequivocally something right about the fact I would prefer Hložek, but I don't mind getting these players from. Well, obviously Sparta, Hložek, but Slavia Prague or Sparta Prague, because I think you know what you're getting, really. And if anybody that comes over from there has this ridiculous work rate that the other two have, if anyone that comes over from there is going to be able to slot in and fit in a way that Hložek and Sufal have, then almost it's a no-brainer. And it's slightly different to the AC Milan team who famously had three Dutchmen in there when they went. Funny enough, Carlo Ancelotti actually played in that team as well. Arrigo Sacchi's team, but they won numerous European Cups and Serie A titles, but it was very much based on a nucleus of Dutch players. So I don't see there's anything wrong with this. If you can sort of import some team spirit and you can import, the only thing I don't know is, how long was he there? Did Hložek actually play with Sima? I don't know. I'm not sure if he did, or has he been there? If he's been there 2 years, he certainly did. If not, then but he will know an awful lot about him. And clearly, the president or the chairman or whoever he might be, when he's saying we're having dialogue with West Ham, it also sounded from the way you said it that they're having dialogue with Hložek and Sufal. Maybe Moyes and Sullivan have got nothing to do with this transfer whatsoever. It is literally, maybe they'll bring him back in their suitcase, or if he might not get a work permit. They'll bring him back. They'll bring him back on the plane, sneak him over.
God knows. I think it's just interesting because we've also had a lot of transfer rumours recently. David Moyes has basically came out and said that Tammy Abraham and Youssef En-Nesyri are too expensive for West Ham. They're too expensive. And when I've heard that, I basically thought, oh, load of rubbish, you're just saying that. But if we are going after Sima, which the manager suggested we are, and he's valued up, he said there's a set price as well, which would be interesting to know, but we believe it's around 20 to 25 million, probably euros, therefore it equates to about 20 million pounds to you and I. That's quite a lot of money for West Ham. Yeah, you add in the probability of signing Jesse Lingard, and all of a sudden that's probably most of our transfer budget gone. Or is he a replacement for Jesse Lingard? Probably not. I don't think he is. I think he's the plus Jesse. So that would suggest that maybe Moyes is just telling it as it is, which is he is too expensive. En-Nesyri, Tammy Abraham, too expensive. We can't afford him. And maybe Sima is the guy that won. Because like I said, Vladimir Sufal, they came out and told us, I'm sure it was after a game, he said that's Sufal's last game. Tomorrow he flies to London because Fredericks had that injury. And before we know it, he was here. He was a West Ham player within a day or something. So there's obviously something going on. I tend to believe it. Like, it's come from the manager. Why would he make that up, kind of thing? There is a good relationship between the two clubs. We know that. My concern is, while I've only seen him in Europa League, I've only seen him play in the European competition. My concern is he's a right winger. I know we've sort of heard on the grapevine, sort of through rumours again, that we believe he could be converted to a striker kind of thing. I'd be a bit disappointed because I was looking forward to signing an actual striker to play up front, to be honest with you. Because I defend Antonio as a striker at times, but there's other games, like the Brighton game, for example, you can tell he's not a natural striker. Danny Welbeck, you can tell, was a natural striker. Danny Ings, when you watch him, you can tell he's a natural striker.
Yeah.
And my concern would be we'd have the same problem again if we tried to shoehorn him up front. Maybe that isn't the plan. Maybe the plan is we get Sima in to play sort of in the Jared Bowen position, and Bowen becomes the second striker. I don't know what the plan would be if we sign him. And that would be my concern, that there's not an obvious requirement for this player, if you like. I'm not discussing his talent, his ability. I'm not discussing that. I have not watched enough of him to say. What I'm discussing is the position he plays, essentially. And that would be my biggest concern as it stands. And it's a hefty fee.
Yeah, well, it is a hefty fee. But, I mean, obviously, in the last game against Brighton, you were very frustrated with Antonio. You were saying he spends too much time on the left. And this would cure that if we get this guy, because he'll just spend too much time on the right. So that alleviates that problem. Look, he's not my choice. He's not my choice. He just isn't. I mean, I can't say anything else, because I did a video 3 days ago where I said Hložek was my first choice and En-Nesyri was my second, and this guy was my third. And David Moyes is right. It's too expensive. Abraham is too expensive. I think for what he is and what he does, he's too expensive. And En-Nesyri is the price he is because I believe him probably to be one of the better strikers in Europe. I think you've got these two superstars in Haaland and Mbappe. And I'm talking about younger players here. Clearly, Lewandowski is a class act. And then I think you've got an underclass of striker just under that, who are top level strikers, Europa League strikers, La Liga strikers, and he's up there and he's one of the better ones. So En-Nesyri is worth whatever Sevilla could get for him, and they probably can get 40 million for him, and it sort of makes sense if Erling Haaland goes for 150 million somewhere and Dortmund have got 150 million, then they probably can afford to go and buy this guy for 45 million. So if that puts him out of our price range, so be it. And you would go to Dortmund before you went to West Ham. Absolutely, no problem with that at all. Do you know what you were saying there? I'd sort of looking forward to getting a striker as well. I think Ings scored against Crystal Palace in the week, and it was a very good goal, and it was a striker's goal. Maybe I got the game wrong, but I think Ings might have scored twice, quite possibly. I think it was possibly his second goal. Was just a striker's goal. You know, like Defoe. What those guys do is they surprise the goalkeeper. I think they surprise the defenders. They just hit it. When you're not expecting, when some players might take a touch and try and move it to the side or do this, that, or the other, they just hit it in a way that you don't expect it. And I would quite like somebody like that. But let's be fair, Geo, Moyes, we've seen this with Arnautovic, we've seen this with Antonio. I think Moyes fancies himself as a bit of that. I mean, it's not just the strikers. We've seen it with Cresswell, and I'm sure there are other examples as well. Moyes is a manager that likes to switch players around in terms of their position and make them play somewhere else. And if he thinks he can do it, I would suspect he probably can, because by and large, he has been mostly successful in his attempts to ask players to play somewhere else.
So what do you think Sima would be? Say this sort of, I say rumour, say this story from the manager's mouth himself, it turned out to be true, and we did go out to Sima, and hypothetically we did sign him. What would you expect from him? Would you expect him to be the striker? Would you expect him to be an attacking midfielder? Would you expect him to play sort of both positions as and when? Because this is what I'm struggling to see. I'm struggling to see what the plan would be. And one way, Moyes probably has one, and chances are, like you're suggesting, it is to play up front. Is that what you're thinking Moyes would be?
He would be either Antonio's replacement or Antonio's cover, or they would equally, share that responsibility around. Clearly, we're going to have a discussion, will be later on today, won't it, about the various connotations in European fixtures for West Ham next season. But whatever flavour of competition that may be, we definitely need another striker. Do we need another right winger? Quite possibly we might need another wide player to bolster the squad a bit, but are we going to go and spend 25, 30 million pounds on cover for Jared Bowen? I think not. I've thought this for some time. If we have a bit of money, if we have got 50, 55, 60 million to spend, and I would believe our budget would be something in that region, striker and Lingard. That's what it is. The rest can be covered. There's lots of freebies. There's lots of loans to be had. And as I keep repeating myself, I know I do. A loan signing doesn't mean a bad signing. Lingard's been one. Souček was one. So I think maybe we might cover that right side position by doing something like that. I think if we spend this money, this guy's a striker.
Would you be happy with Sima and Lingard?
I guess. Look, I haven't seen enough of him as well. I mean, funny, I watched En-Nesyri. I've seen lots of footage. I've really watched Hložek. I've not watched enough of this guy. He was very good in The Lion King, to be fair. But aside from that, I've not seen much of him at all. So I don't know. I will have a look. I'll come back to you on that in a day or two. I'll assess Simba and go and see what he does.
There'd be a bit of me a bit disappointed. Like I'm being honest with you. I know I shouldn't say this. I feel bad saying it. There'd be a bit of me a bit disappointed. Like I said, it's not because of his ability or that. If we got Sima, Lingard and a £30 million striker or a very good striker, I'd be happy with that. But I sort of agree with what you're suggesting, which is he would be the striker purchase. And that concerns me a little bit. I just feel like it's an unnecessary gamble, to be honest with you, because what happens if he doesn't... You're not only asking him to come to a different league and settle into a different country, you're also asking him to change position at the same time. And it's okay converting Creswell, and it's okay converting Anatovich and Antonio, because they've got like a settled family life kind of thing away from the football pitch. So all you're doing is putting pressure on them on the football pitch a little bit. And I just think this is an unnecessary risk where you're bringing in a gamble on its own, and you're just making it riskier. You're making a bigger gamble than it needs to be. And I just think we need someone that's going to score goals. We need a striker, an out-and-out striker, I think. And I'm not even confident that this guy would come in and dislodge Antonio if Antonio's fit. He might do. Like I said, he might be the best since sliced bread. I watched him against Rangers. I watched him against Leicester City and Arsenal. And he looked good, but he didn't look... I didn't watch him and think, oh, I'll tell you what, we can sign him and stick him up front. I certainly didn't think that about him.
Yeah. Well, David Moyes did.
But, there's some players you look at and you think he'd do a job up front, like Zaha. You watch Zaha play for... You watch Richarlison play for Everton on the wing or Zaha for Palace, and you think they'd do a job up front. They would. St. Maximum, to some extent, for Newcastle, he'd do all right up front. He'd be able to hold his own. And I watch him, and I didn't really get that sort of thing. But like I said, it's a very small example pool that I've just watched him play for. And I don't know, I was just hoping for something a bit more substance up front. That we're going to use the Sebastian Haller money. We're going to use whatever money we didn't spend last season. The creative team got no money. I was just hoping for a bit more of, not necessarily a venture, and it doesn't have to be like a £40 million signing per se. It could be a 10 million signing, but that 10 million guy, I would expect to be an out-and-out striker that was going to force Antonio out the starting 11 like that because of ability, and purely because of ability. And this, I would just be a bit worried that he'd almost become a bit like what Jared Bowen is, where he's not good enough up front. He's not good enough to replace Jesse Lingard. He sort of just gets played here, he gets played there, and it's just, I don't know. It's anyway, I thought it was interesting news, and I thought it'd be good clickbait for your video today, Gonzo.
It's really good. I'm going to think up a title. It'll be really good. It will do what it says it does on the tin. I can barely even speak today.
Should we do something we've never really done before?
What now?
Yeah, not like that. Okay. We've done that before.
That's true.
People, should we make a thumbnail, and people are going to have to watch us make a thumbnail because you're happy and I'm not. So you could do a celebratory face, and I could do like an angry one or a sad one, and you can screenshot it for the thumbnail.
Okay, let me take the border away. How do I do that?
Go into brand. No, you've taken. That's it.
Okay, all right. So
sorry, viewers. We're going to make a thumbnail then from start ending.
So I'll be like that, and you can be okay. Right, ready?
Basically, viewers,
I like the thumbnail.
If you go back, that should be the thumbnail of the video for today's video. That's how we created it.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Well done. Groundbreaking.
Right. Shall we leave it there?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick the end slate on now, but we'll say goodbye to everybody. And I would really be interested to hear from any of our any of the people in the Czech Republic. Kovo the Bloodless, where are you? Let us know what you think of Sima. Geo, thank you very much, my friend.
Ta-ra!